In the beginning, nothing existed. The world was a dark storm, until the goddess of light then poured light over the world, giving rise to the continent where different races are born, such as draconians, zones, and demons. But there are also elves, dwarves, centaurs, fallen beasts, and humans. And it is within this context that we have our hero named Light. After saying goodbye to his family, he begins his journey as an adventurer. However, upon arriving in the city, he quickly realizes how humans, or at least himself, are despised by the other races. When he arrives at the Adventurers Guild, he registers with a receptionist, who informs him that, since this is his first registration, he will start at rank F. She asks him if he possesses a gift, and he answers that he does, and that it is limited gacha. The kid basically really likes playing Genshin Impact. The receptionist does not understand anything and asks him to explain. Light then shows his ability, where he can basically spin a roulette wheel. And if you think he is going to get something really good from that roulette, you are mistaken. He basically manages to pull out a bent fork with his ability. Terrible. At least for now, right? He then continues trying to pull something worthwhile, but all of his gacha pulls go wrong. He pulls out a rotten apple and several other useless things, and the woman just looks at him with a face full of contempt. Unfortunately, for our dear Light, he will have to remain at rank F. She warns him that this is better for him at this moment, and Light asks if there is any task that he can carry out. She points to a notice board, although when he looks at it, he seems a bit nervous. She asks if he has trouble reading, and he confirms that he does, and the receptionist already expected that, since literacy among humans has a low rate. She then recommends small jobs for him, such as gathering firewood or other similar tasks, but naturally the payment for these activities is quite low. Even so, Light is already happy and gladly accepts, although after a long time of hard work, he does not manage to earn much money. At least it is enough for him to have a place to sleep. The detail is that while he is walking, he passes through some dark streets, and then some wolf individuals harass him, bumping into him and accusing him of dirtying their clothes. Then, to compensate, they say that he will have to hand over all of his money. The kid did not have much to begin with and tries to resist, but is beaten soon after. They then leave with his money, while he remains there thrown into the mud, all beaten up. Poor thing. He is despised by the other races, with the exception of a woman who appears there and touches his hand. He panics, since he thought he had dirtied her. But she hugs him and says that she will not do him any harm, since she is part of a group that has various races. They say that they will not harm him. The other members of the group tell him that they represent the 9 races created by the goddess, and that is why they formed this group. Then the elf introduces herself as Sasha. The werewolf introduces himself as Garu. The draconian is the one with the most creative name. His name is Drago. There is also an Oni named Oboro and the demon king named Diablo. Very creative indeed. The dark elf is named Sione. The dwarf is named Nanao, because that guy's name is really good. It made me laugh quite a lot. And of course, lastly, there is the centaur, who is named Centaur. And right after they introduce themselves, they say that their group is missing only a human to become complete. They wish to put an end to racial discrimination and create a better world for everyone, and they need someone like him to join their group. Light obviously accepts with pleasure, but he should have known that when charity is too generous, suspicion is necessary. Well then, shortly after, in a scene change, we now see them in a dungeon, where Light is protected by his group. He feels quite useless. However, Sasha asks him not to get frustrated. After all, they are inside the largest and most dangerous dungeon in the world. The rest of the group begins to tease them, saying that they look quite adorable together. Sasha becomes embarrassed and blushes, and states that they cannot allow the group to be harmed if they lose their human member. They then agree and comment that Light should not worry, that they will protect him. They say that he can make the tea and that it is already more than enough. They then continue on their way, going deeper into the dungeon, until they reach a certain place. Garu then comments that this is the appropriate location, and all of them change their attitude, while Light is thinking that it is time for coffee. He goes there, separates everyone's cups so that everyone will be fine, and when he goes to call the group, Garu simply reveals that he has now been expelled from the group, barely joined and already gone. They all then show their true faces, making Light realize that they could no longer tolerate him in their group. Humans are despicable and useless in this world, and he, astonished, asks why they were acting with such kindness before, and now are acting as if he were a piece of trash. his group reveals that they were only pretending, because the upper echelons were concerned about his supposedly invincible gacha ability. But there is nothing invincible about this at all, so they were ordered to keep an eye on him, and that is why they integrated him into their group, since they thought he might be a master. However, his abilities are terrible and his gift is useless. And now he is nothing more than a simple hindrance, and Sasha confesses that she feels relieved that the boy is not a master, because if he were, she would have had to marry him, and she refuses to marry someone she considers inferior. Light asks what the hell a master is and what they are talking about. However, Drago says that Goru has already talked too much and that it is time to end this, since they have specific orders to eradicate any problem and potential. Goru then attacks Light's face, and in panic he runs to save his life. However, Sasha already thinks she is Legolas and pulls her bow, firing an arrow straight into the poor guy's leg. They delight in Light's pain while Goru takes charge of beating him up. But Drago says that he should finish this quickly, since they need to announce that the human of the group died due to a surprise monster attack. And if the kid is completely beaten up, it will not really look like it was a monster, so they at least have to make it seem that way. Light desperately crawls for his life, questioning why the hell all of this is happening to him. He wishes to live, and as he shouts his wish, a magical seal appears on the ground. Drago, the dragon, becomes alarmed upon seeing that a magical trap on the ground has been activated, and Goru quickly advances to kill him. However, fortunately, our hero survives and manages to escape. The detail is that he continues in another part of the dungeon, the most dangerous in the world, understanding that he did not die at the hands of those wretches, but will probably die if he encounters a monster. He begins to cry in frustration, since he was deceived. He truly believed that those people were good, but now all of that has been thrown into the trash. He remembers that they had orders to kill him and questions who is behind all of this. But in the end, none of that matters, since he thinks only about taking revenge on those bastards. He swears to kill them in the worst possible way, although he only says that, and soon after an enormous monster appears before him. This is a level 1000 monster, making Light understand that this trap teleported him to an even deeper place within the abyss. Despite all the circumstances, he does not intend to give up. He will not die in this place. But unlike the protagonist of Arafuta, who gradually became stronger, this one simply summons a gacha. The roulette begins to behave in a very strange way. Light had never seen this happen before, and from it emerges an absurd female figure that quickly destroys the monsters. She comments that she will have no mercy toward anyone who messes with her master. Light watches, astonished, as the girl approaches him and kneels as a sign of respect. Upon seeing that her master is injured, she approaches and easily heals his wounds, and with great politeness, she asks whether she may be honored with his name. Light introduces himself to her, and his maid begins to repeat his name in a very strange way, calling him master. She comments that according to the code of honor of a maiden, she is obligated to serve him, and will live forever in his service, thus swearing absolute loyalty to Light. He asks who she is, and very politely she introduces herself as May, the maiden who is always sought. She reveals that her level is 9999, in addition to explaining that she is a super ultra rare card. Basically, the guy won the gacha 50-50. Very good. She says that she will be forever by his side. Although Light cannot believe it, since his gacha before only gave him useless things, so it is impossible that someone as incredible as her could come from it. May asks him to simply call her by her name, and seeing her insistence, Light accepts. May asks for permission to use her appraisal ability, and in this way check the status of his unlimited gacha. Light, surprised, asks her if this happens to be her gift, although May replies that it is actually one of her innate abilities. She lets Light know that it is inconceivable for his gift to be useless, and therefore asks him to allow her to evaluate it. He accepts, and upon doing so, May is surprised to discover that his abilities are hidden beneath a heavy layer of concealment. This makes it impossible for anyone who is not at her level to see the details, and she explains that his unlimited gacha is very far from being a bad gift, because after all he can use it an infinite number of times, and both the probabilities and the rarities of the cards it produces vary depending on the mana surrounding him. The rarities range from highest to lowest, and there is an extra one, a super ultra rare, the SSS rank. And there are also double S and S. In addition to rare, common, and error, she reveals that mana density exists in the world, although on the surface the density is much lower, which is why he was never able to obtain a rare card or anything like that. Only error results. But in the depths of that dungeon the mana is absurd, which means he has many chances to obtain a rare card. Because he ended up in the deepest part of the abyss, He was surrounded by overwhelming mana and managed to summon this SSS rank card. She congratulates him on his bravery, since he traveled alone to that place, only to take advantage of the true potential of his limited gacha. Little does she know, she also comments that encountering any monster in that place could have been fatal given his current statistics. Although now that she will be by his side, there is no problem at all. The girl is simply level 9999. There is no one who can stop her. But at that moment Light interrupts her, saying that he could never have faced that abyss alone. He reveals that he was with a group, but they betrayed him. He was cut, humiliated, and pierced by arrows, and was on the verge of death at the hands of his own companions, when all he wanted was simply to support his family. They boasted about wanting to end discrimination and create a just world, but they only wanted to take advantage of him. So he declares that they will pay. They will pay dearly. He will not rest until they receive what they deserve. And at that Mei embraces him, apologizing, because a maiden like her could never comprehend the depth of his suffering. But she can assure him of one thing: she will make them fall. He only needs to give her an order, and she, as a maiden, will hunt those faithless traitors and deliver their heads on stakes. But Light says that she does not need to do that, and Mei replies that he has a very kind heart, but those people do not deserve mercy. He simply responds that he trusted them and was deceived, but that happened because he was very weak, which implies that he must become stronger. Even if it is impossible for a human like him, he still wishes to take revenge with his own hands. He will make them pay for it. However, he asks Mei whether she considers this dream foolish, and she remains kneeling respectfully, informing him that his wish is her wish, and if he seeks personal revenge, she will assist him and honor him until the time comes, because she believes in his potential. Light once again gives thanks and resumes summoning his limited gacha. Thus he will establish a kingdom that will pave the way for his revenge. At that moment the abyss shines with a great light, becoming the first page of his great story of vengeance. In the blink of an eye, 3 years pass. Now we see how our hero has grown and built an entire kingdom in the depths of the abyss. This is a highly advanced society, and he is idolized. Although Mei is not very pleased with how excessive the fairies can be with her master. As he walks through the citadel, everyone greets him very warmly, and also informs him that they are experiencing some problems with resources. Upon learning this, Mei states that she will act quickly to replenish the supplies. 3 years have passed and many more people have arrived to live there. Light thinks that they should reevaluate the way they manage things, and he asks Mei what the other 4 are doing. She informs him that they are working hard. Then we see who is exploring and mapping the area around the abyss. Soon after, we see Ellie, who is working to develop new magic and advance her objectives. Meanwhile, Mizuna is searching the interior of the castle, since she is an expert in close combat and is also very charismatic, although Mei does not consider it a good idea to leave her in the castle. Later, the group meets Jack, a level 7777 card. He is training with Light, although because he is quite informal when addressing Light, Mei does not appreciate him very much. Light tells her that she does not need to worry about that, and then they proceed with the training. There we see that Light has improved greatly, to the point where he can face this very high-level card. Mizuna then states that the castle is unoccupied, and upon encountering the cleaning fairies, she comments that she is on a super ultra mega important mission assigned by Lord Light himself. The girls praise her for doing an excellent job, although it seems that they are only saying that out of courtesy, just to make her happy. Mizuna has a very high ego, and because of that the girls take advantage of it, so that she patrols a certain place, since she is very good at it. This is a secret place, to which not even they can get close. Mizuna is innocent, and is unaware of this place, although the fairies smile maliciously. And here is a tip: never trust fairies. Elsewhere we see that Mizuna is knocking on a door, and is received by Mei. She asks what brings her to Light's room, and she answers that she is patrolling, and asks what she is doing in the room of the Great Lord. Since he himself is now training with Jack, Mei informs her that she is doing cleaning, although while she speaks, Mizuna enters the room, and comments that it looks more like she is rolling on the Lord's bed, to try to distract her. She mentions that it is a secret technique to arrange the bed. Mizuna becomes interested, but Mei replies that she cannot reveal anything, since it is a secret. Mizuna responds that she expected nothing less from the first summon by the Great Lord, making Mei feel relieved, since Mizuna is not very smart. Let us say it that way. However, she remembers that she has a task. She takes out a letter, and warns that the fairies do not like the idea that she monopolizes the room of the Great Lord Light, since they also have the right to clean his room, and they demand a vote to end this monopoly of the head maids. Nazuna reads that they are cursing her 3 times, although she does not understand it very well, and because of that she asks if perhaps they are doing this to gain resistance. Although Mei replies that she should not worry about this, since it is a matter between the head maids and the cleaning fairies. She gives Nazuna some gold coins as a reward, and she happily goes to buy that little afternoon snack, that famous cookie with cola. Soon after she returns to the castle, where she meets Yuki. She asks if she was patrolling the forest, but Yuki just keeps meowing all the time, and then Nazuna says that she came simply to deliver a task that Mei ordered. She hands over a map. Nazuna then applauds very strongly, warning that she did an excellent job, and soon after leaves the place to continue with her patrol. Shortly after, upon arriving at Light's throne, she screams, just to check if there is any monster nearby. After verifying that everything is clear, she starts rubbing herself on Light's throne. She laments not having seen him the entire day. However, to her sadness, she broke one of the ornaments of the throne. She picks up the item and quickly leaves the place, since she is not stupid or anything. Then we see our hero training with Jack. He recommends stopping the training there, so that he can go to school and take a bath. Light thinks it is great and goes to a thermal bath. Jack congratulates him because he is much better at controlling his body. There are not many down there who can face him in a one-on-one. He very much doubts that on the surface there are opponents either. The boy is simply too fierce. Light replies that they do not know what awaits them on the surface. However, he does not intend to lower his guard until he fulfills his revenge. Meanwhile, we see that in Mei's office, the cleaning fairies are nervous. They ask if they know why she summoned them to her office, but the fairies pretend not to know anything. Mei takes it upon herself to quote each and every word of the letter, making the maids panic and take several steps backward. They begin to apologize, and Mei asks what they wish to achieve with that. Although the fairies do not really know what to say, they only try to offer simple apologies to justify what they did. But Mei tells them that their worst mistake was sending Nazuna to do their dirty work, and because of that, as punishment, they will simply clean the great corridor leading to Light's throne. But they must do it manually. The fairies panic because this corridor is absurdly long, but Mei informs them that the path to becoming a perfect servant is quite arduous, and since she will probably go up to the surface to carry out a mission for Light, they will take care of all the work. The fairies, with no other option, end up accepting, since there is not much they can do anyway. Meanwhile, Nazuna meets Ellie at the market, and she asks if perhaps she is looking for sweets. Nazuna replies that she is admiring that gauntlet, and then asks what she is doing in the city, when she was supposed to be investigating or developing something. Ellie lets her know that if she returned it is because all her plans are going perfectly. She asks if perhaps she is an idiot, and Nazuna starts arguing with her, letting her know that she is not stupid at all, but if you ask her how much is 2 plus 2, she will answer 2. The girls then quickly start arguing, while the citizens upon seeing them think that they are quite childish. Ellie, without wasting time, starts bragging about the times she had tea with the great Lord Benedict, and she is certain that on a next opportunity they will dine together, alone in his room, and then spend the night all together. Nazuna feels frustrated because she also wanted to have a little coffee with Light, and after throwing her little tantrum, Ellie asks Nazuna if that is really all that she wants. She replies that yes, and Ellie says that she is quite an idiot if she only wants that with her lord. However, at the end of this discussion, Nazuna informs that she is good only with magic, and that she can be relied on for close combat. And after that she happily leaves to continue patrolling as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Ellie thinks that this girl is definitely an airhead. On the other hand, the cleaning fairies are there complaining, questioning why the Hell Chief Mei got angry with them, when they only complain about seeing her monopolizing Light's room. However, they know that they cannot confront the head maid, and they wonder if they could poison her. Although one of the fairies mentions that they cannot do that, since she is immune to poisons. These fairies are crazy. They simply want to poison a girl who is level 9999. They lament because they only wish to clean their lord's room, although they also want to lick his boots, the forks and everything they can. But that is really all they want to do. Nothing more than that. They remember that Mei was the first to be summoned by Light, and after 3 months Lady Yuki was summoned, which means that those two stayed alone for 3 entire months. They think that at that time the young master was very inexperienced, and they quickly began to feel envy of the luck that Mei had. Without hesitation, all of them together try to convert their envy into negative energy, to begin cursing and wishing for Mei's death. Although exactly at that moment she enters the room, the fairies panic, because she was supposed to be on the surface. Mei replies that she was on her way. When she casually heard their lovely prayers, the fairies already become afraid. While Mei asks for an explanation for all of this, the fairies with no other alternative let her know that they are jealous, since she was the first to be summoned and spent 3 entire months alone with Light. Mei tells them that although she has no obligation whatsoever to say anything, she reveals that before Yuki was summoned, she took charge of educating her lord. She taught him all combat techniques so that they did not have time to do improper things. She then mentions that she went to his room because she thought she had been unfair with the order she had given them before. However, she realized that she was very mistaken. These 4 here still need even more work. She then orders them to also clean the entire throne room, since if they have time to cast curses, they will have enough time to clean the entire room. Then she casts a threatening look, and the fairies say that they will clean everything. A short time later, the poor fairies are there cleaning the throne hall when they come across a somewhat complicated situation that Nizuna left there. Meanwhile, Nizuna in her room laments since she could not see Lord Light the entire day, although she nurtures the hope of being able to see him the next day. And then on the next day, when leaving the castle, Light meets Nizuna, Ellie and Yuki. Upon seeing him, they do not waste time, especially Yuki. The other 2 quickly begin to complain. However, at that moment a hellhound appears. Light begins to tremble and remember that fateful day. However, his loyal companions prepare to eliminate that individual for having the audacity to present himself hostilely before Lord Light. Their aura is so frightening that even the hellhound kneels. Light tells them that they should not worry because he is fine. He approaches to pet the dog, while thinking that his companions would eliminate an entire species, even if he said it in a joking tone. They then ask what the pending matter is, and Light informs that he received a message from Mei, and now this is the moment to prepare. Because one of the prey bit the bait, he counts on them to take care of the first step and begin his revenge, since he has been preparing for this for 3 years. On the other side, we see Garou, who is in a city where he is cheered by everyone. That shameless dog. While walking, he meets a human, and as usual takes advantage of the situation to humiliate him. Later, he meets in a restaurant, and his sycophants do not stop praising him, praising his abilities and great perception. This guy has remarkable confidence, and mentions that thanks to his sense of smell, he accepted only the best jobs, which led him to success. One of his followers asks him if in those jobs was also included the one he carried out 3 years ago, that one about the union of the tribes, asking what kind of job that was. At that moment, he orders the other companions to be silent, because that was a secret operation that only the great Garou could carry out. He apologizes to them, but he is forced to keep this secret, while thinking that in truth this was the easiest job of his life. He then recalls a moment when he humiliated poor Light, and thanks to that job he is now rich and famous. But he was always bothered by the fact that they were never able to find him after that teleport. But he would like to know a little more about that so-called master whom everyone was desperately looking for. However, he feels his skin crawl, understanding that investigating a bit further could be very dangerous. Although at that instant Mei appears in the restaurant and apologizes for the interruption. In a scene change, we see how in the dungeon she pretends to be weak, while being escorted by Garou's group. He recalls how in the restaurant she introduced herself as a loyal servant of Light, and told that the young Light belongs to a noble lineage. She was desperately searching for him, and Garou did not believe any of her words, since Light did not seem to be any kind of noble. Mei informs that she cannot speak many details, and therefore asks him not to ask so many questions. Garou thinks that all of this can only be a lie, although the girl says that it is true. He could amass a fortune if Light really belongs to the nobility, and asks what she seeks from him. She asks him to please accompany her, to see with his own eyes the place where Master Light was last seen, since supposedly he is dead. Garou informs that this is far too dangerous, although Mei replies that she is willing to pay the price, showing him a briefcase with 3 gold bars. Garou wonders if Light's family really was noble, since a servant like this is paying such an amount just to escort him. He feels that it could be a trap, although by belittling humans, he believes that a simple human poses no threat. Mei replies that the money does not matter, since supposedly Light was a great friend of her group, and so she needs to recover his body. He ends up accepting the deal, and she cries emotionally, while Garou can only think that once she leads him to that place, he will enjoy her body right over Light's grave. Later, they arrive at the place where Light was ambushed. Garou makes up all kinds of lies, and Mei kneels and shows that she is about to cry, lamenting everything that happened to her master. Garou is already about to block the exits, although Mei mentions everything they did to Light at that place, and Garou immediately goes on alert, wondering how that woman knows all of this. Only a few know what really happened, and so he asks who the hell she works for. Mei stands up and reveals that her loyalty belongs solely to Master Light. After fixing her gaze full of hostility on Garou and his group, they simply panic, wondering why the hell they feel fear of that woman. Mei watches him with a threatening look. making Garou understand that he is dead. However, Light arrives there out of nowhere and asks Mei to calm down, because Garou is his prey. Garou's group wonders how a detestable human managed to reach the heart of the abyss. Light reveals his face, while Garou, unable to believe it, asks how he did it, how he can still be alive. And Light, smiling, lets him know that he is there to collect his revenge with 3 years of interest. Garou starts laughing, asking if perhaps a simple level 15 human child returned to take revenge on him. A foolish man of level 150. He comments that he has no idea how he managed to survive, but he made a mistake and showed his face before him, and this will be the greatest mistake of his life, since once he has seen him, he will kill him, take his body, and be crowned king of the beasts. Although Light feels disappointed, questioning whether he is not curious to know how he is still alive and what his relationship with Mei is, Garou replies that he is right, since he cannot measure the strength of his strange servant. But that does not matter, since both are humans and cannot do anything against his entire group, who are above level 130. Moreover, he cares very little about how he managed to survive, since he certainly did so thanks to that woman who found him. Light replies that he is not entirely wrong, although Garou does not even waste time and orders them to finish him. But in an instant, Mei simply decapitates 2 members. Light thanks her for intervening, although he asks her to go block the exit. Garou's group cannot believe how that servant defeated their companions so easily, but Garou asks them to remain calm, since it was a surprise attack, because inferior beings like humans could never surpass them. Light replies that he is quite disappointed, since Garou has not changed at all. He asks whether it ever crossed his mind that the truly weak ones are the other races. Garou instructs him not to speak nonsense, because human mana reserves are minimal, demonstrating that his level is 158, and Light comments that the levels reached by each race vary enormously, and due to this difference, discrimination against humans originated. Garou shouts at him, saying that this exact reason is why humans are despicable. Although Light asks him to explain why 2 of his men are already on the ground, Garou replies that it is probably because he used some magical item, and quickly everyone rushes toward him. However, Light defeats everyone with great ease, then approaches Garou to ask if he is already tired. Garou is blinded by rage when he sees how Light looks down on him. He steps back and warns that Light will pay for acting superior, since to him he is nothing more than useless. And without wasting time, he summons his magical beast Fenrir. He is very confident and tells him to prepare to suffer, since his secret weapon is a level 500 Fenrir. Light merely sighs, mentioning that it is pathetically weak, and Garou assumes that he has gone insane from fear. He orders him to crawl like trash and beg for forgiveness on all 4s. However, at that moment, Light drops his weapon, stating that he will not move from that spot, and therefore Garou can do whatever he wants. Garou takes advantage of the moment and orders his beast to attack with a howl. He comments that all the concentrated mana of his beast will pulverize him with that attack, although he quickly realizes that Light did not even move. He simply brushed off the dust, mentioning that the attack merely stirred the air. Everyone present is left perplexed while Light tells them that now it is his turn. He comments that calling Fenrir, that poor dog, gives a very misleading impression, and therefore asks him to let him show what a true Fenrir is, releasing the true primordial wolf god. The true Fenrir, a level 9000 card. With just a single breath, it dispels Garou's summoning, and he and his group are astonished at the immense power of that creature. However, Light says that he also could have gotten rid of that pup, and when he reveals his level, Garou and his group become apprehensive, wondering whether humans could not even reach level 100. Unable to believe it, Garou comments that he must be an imposter, since he looks exactly the same as 3 years ago. But Light reveals that he is wearing the bracelet of youth, which prevents him from aging. He did this to remember all the pain, anger, and despair they made him go through back then. Garou understands that he can do nothing to defeat that monster, and without wasting time, he begins to beg for his life, revealing that he was merely following the Federation's orders, blaming the rest of the members for the attack that day. He is shouting that it is all a lie, although Light approaches and asks for information about that so-called master, and why, despite knowing that he was not a master, they still tried to eliminate him anyway. Garou replies that he truly has no information, and he does not know the reason they tried to eliminate him regardless. Light then turns to Garou's group, asking whether they really know anything or not. Everyone replies that they do not know, although Mei quickly turns them into sushi, since they dared to deceive her master Light. Garou freezes in absolute terror, as he watched all of his companions being killed right before his eyes, while Light asks him one final question: if they declared war on the surface with all the power they had shown, would they be able to defeat everyone there? He tells the wolf not to lie, since Mei has the eye of truth that is capable of seeing everything. Garou trembles in fear, and says that with all the power Light has demonstrated, the battle would already begin in his favor. But despite his level being absurd, he is still only one person. While the nations of the world have spent years stockpiling weapons, armor, and all kinds of special items, so if everyone united against him even with his overwhelming strength, he would face great difficulty. Light replies that this is exactly what he thought. After all, there is a limit to what just one person can do. The Lord realizes that he has many more questions for him. But first he will teleport him to a certain place. Using his teleportation card, they arrive at the throne room, where Garou remains stunned. Since he has just witnessed all the forces that Light now possesses, he also realizes how everyone there shows respect toward him. And then Light sits upon his throne, where he asks all his subjects to stand and show their levels. Each one of his members is above rank 1500. And he reveals that these are the forces he gathered over the last 3 years. And because of that, he asks once again, what are his chances of winning if he declares war on the nations of the world? Garou is unable to utter a single word, though his expression already says everything. Light is smiling broadly and congratulates Garou, for he has now earned the privilege of suffering agony and despair worse than death. Garou stammers and asks whether he plans to become a god, because with all the power he possesses he could destroy the entire world in the blink of an eye. Light replies that becoming a god does not sound bad at all, although whether he will be a benevolent god or a demon lord depends on the response the surface gives him. And then the moment finally arrives to begin his journey from the abyss to the surface, from the heart of darkness to the light. Sometime later we finally see Light and his people reaching the surface, where he becomes deeply emotional at the thought of finally seeing his family again. However, upon arriving in the city he realizes the terrible reality. The city where his family lived is completely in ruins. 6 months have already passed since then, and the only thing that comforts Light is that he did not find the bodies of his sister or his brother, which fills him with hope. And Gold, who is a level 5000 card, recommends that he continue on his way, since sleeping out in the open is not very good. However, his companion Nimumu scolds him for not addressing him with proper respect. Gold replies that this is not necessary, because the only one who truly matters is Lord Lloyd, and as long as he is well, everything is fine. Sleeping out in the open is not comfortable, so Nimumu understands that Gold may be right, while Light tells them not to worry, since now they know that with their current strength they could simply conquer the world. However, he does not wish to start an attack so suddenly, and it is truly much better to first understand his enemy rather than attack with everything. The attack on his village is probably related to the fact that he is a master, which leads him to question what a potential master could have done to make those nations cause something like that. Light grows furious, for if the truth of this world is based on malice, then he will engulf the entire world in the flames of hell. Gold advises Light to restrain his thirst for vengeance while he is in the city. Otherwise, innocent people could suffer. Light understands, and so he uses a mask to conceal his identity and go unnoticed. He continues on his journey, determined to find his family, and while they are flying, Nimumu calls him by name and asks what they will do in Dagas. However, Gold immediately reprimands her, because on the surface she cannot call her master Light. She must remember that on the surface she should call him Darth, otherwise people might notice him. Light explains that the first step is to gather information, and in order to do that they will have to raise their rank in the guild. Since the higher the rank, the greater the amount of information they will be able to obtain. When they spot the city in the distance, they decide to proceed on foot to avoid drawing attention. Along the way they come across a carriage being attacked by some bandits. The classic situation. Light then orders his companions to capture them quickly. In the blink of an eye they are already tied up, and the humans from the carriage stop to thank them, then decide to take them to Dagas. The child is excited, for he has never seen humans so strong. He asks whether they are heading to the dungeon, thinking they must be famous adventurers. Light tells him that he has not even registered yet, and that they are merely aspiring adventurers. The first step will be to register, and from there they will begin to climb the ranks. The man informs them that they chose the right place to start. Since Dagas is the southernmost city of the Dwarven Kingdom, it shares borders with the Human Kingdom and the Elven Kingdom. Although there are major disputes, thanks to the quality of its dungeon, many adventurers make the city quite lively. Despite it being in the middle of nowhere, he reveals that he runs an inn. Upon arriving at the entrance, he asks the group if they are sure they wish to stay there. Light says that it is more than enough, since they are providing information. The man quickly asks them to consider staying at his inn, and after that they arrive at the guild. There they see a large number of aspiring adventurers of the human race. However, at the moment of registration, Nemo becomes furious because he cannot accept that his beloved lowest lore starts at rank F. The receptionist informs that everyone, without exception, begins at that position, and Light, upon realizing that Nemo cannot cooperate, apologizes to the receptionist. Upon leaving the guild, she is crying and asks for forgiveness, since because of her she made her great master apologize. He says that this did not affect anything, and that everything is fine. And after that they go to Colonel's Inn. He is emotional and informs that if they need anything at all they should not hesitate to request it. Light does not intend to let this opportunity pass, stating that he would like to rent the entire upper floor for a whole month, but he proposes a condition. During their stay no one, including the inn's own staff, may go up to that place. He hands the man a bag full of gold coins. However, Colonel informs that he cannot accept all of this. Not after Light saved his life, but Light keeps insisting until the man accepts. Soon after they settle on the second floor, where Light uses silence, magic nullification, and detection, so that no one can spy on them, and they can relax peacefully. Nemo comments that she understands that he wants to go up to the surface and pass himself off as an adventurer. However, no matter how strong he is, there is always the possibility that something may happen. That is why she proposes that he issue his orders from the abyss. But Light, crazy as he is, already asks if by any chance she is trying to deny his revenge. Nemo, desperate, thinking that she is going to die, immediately begs for forgiveness, while Light, with his blood power, makes the entire place tremble. Gold starts laughing, commenting that a man must, at times, do things on his own, even if it is dangerous. Light, realizing that he went a bit too far with poor Nemo, apologizes to her, although she insists that she was the one who made a mistake and apologizes to him, asking him to allow her to renew her oath of loyalty. Light accepts, and we see that this gesture of loyalty is in fact kissing his feet. As an act of total submission, Gold starts laughing and says that this was complete indecency, and Nemo, enraged, asks how he can say that about such a devout act toward Light. Light becomes completely embarrassed, and shortly after they head to the dungeon, where Light realizes that they are drawing too much attention. But that is exactly what he wants for Darth. Although the line to enter the dungeon is quite long, they notice that there are not many elves in the place, and Light explains that this is because dwarves and elves are always fighting over ownership of that dungeon. And at that very moment a group of adventurers joins the line. The humans behind them are afraid to complain about them cutting the line, but Light intervenes and recommends that they line up like everyone else. One of them asks whether by chance he does not know who the hell he is talking to, and Light, very relaxed, replies how he is supposed to know if he is wearing a hood that covers his entire face. The man tries to attack him, although one of his companions restrains him, reminding him that that place is not appropriate for causing trouble, and that it is also not the place to reveal that weapon. And then with no more options they go to the back of the line. They got screwed, but they warn Light that they will make him pay. And as they leave, the other adventurers, at least the humans, celebrate because he got what he deserved. Gold already warns his master that he is already a celebrity, while the small adventurers from before thank him for intervening, informing him that they did not want to cause problems and therefore remained silent, and ask for forgiveness for that. Although Light tells them not to worry, the only thing they did was defend themselves, since those people were bothering everyone. The boys thank him, and one of them asks Gold whether by chance the armor he wears is made of real gold. His friends scold him for asking such a thing, but Gold says that everyone wants to know. They are not the only ones. He was about to reveal that it was indeed made entirely of gold. Although Nemo intervened, she warned that it was only painted, because one cannot make a durable armor with a mineral as soft as gold. The little boy was about to ask something else, but his companion covers his mouth and apologizes to the group. Light tells them not to worry, commenting that loyalty is everything to Gold and his armor is the symbol of his knighthood, while thinking that besides that it also serves to attract the attention of adventurers. The youths ask whether by chance this is his first time in the dungeon, because they notice that he is not carrying much baggage and the dungeon levels are quite extensive, which is why many adventurers carry many supplies in order to camp inside it. Light thanks them for the advice, and at that moment the dungeon gatekeeper orders them to enter. The boys say their goodbyes while Light and his group think that they are very used to item boxes, and that is why they should take something out at least to keep up appearances. Later, upon entering the dungeon, the youths think that to uncover its secrets they must analyze its cores. However, not even Ellie is able to do it, and if Ellie could not, Nemo cannot either. Light comments that the dungeon cores possess a great concentration of mana, and that it can create anything. Upon entering the lower levels of the dungeon, we see how this space is completely different. Light uses his cards of clairvoyance, concealment, and flight in order to explore the dungeon quickly. while he advances directly to the second floor of the dungeon. On the other hand, we see a leader of the elf group who is quite irritated. He is a younger warrior among the elite white knights and is a very powerful warrior. Through his veins runs the blood of the great Kido, and he cannot accept that a despicable human with less value than an insect treats him in that way. However, his companion named Janak recommends that he calm down and continue the search for the trolls on the third floor, although Kido orders him to shut up. He is very frustrated because his level cap is 1500, and he does not allow anyone to belittle him. Apparently, he is quite desperate to level up and orders Janak to assist him with that. Smiling, he replies that he should not worry. After all, they are partners, and he will not hesitate to share the results of his research with him. But Kido thinks that when things start going well, he will simply get rid of that dark elf. Scummy. It is then that we see that they manage to defeat the trolls and prepare to collect the gems to return to the surface and prove that they reach the third floor. And quickly they will achieve their promotion. And on the way back they notice that the previous group is being surrounded. They remain watching and realize that they managed to perform excellent teamwork. Although suddenly the youths appear before them and Light recommends that they be more careful, killing the one that killed a serpent that was hidden. Although its venom is not lethal, it would have left them paralyzed. The youths thank him for the advice. Although at that moment they feel that something is approaching. From the forest emerges a large horde of wolves. They question what they are doing in that place. Since they do not belong there, the young adventurers decide to run. Although the church warns that those wolves will not attack, they are surprised. Since from within the forest powerful mantises also emerge, they cannot believe that this entity is still alive, since it is assumed that they were exterminated 10 years ago. The boys, wanting to help their benefactors, ask them to flee while they take responsibility for distracting it. Little do they know how strong Light is. And then Light, or rather Darth, replies that if they want to flee, they may face it. And then he wastes no time and attacks. While the other youths panic, seeing that he is facing that creature on equal footing. He strikes it, although the mantis manages to block. He mentions that it is quite resilient, and then Light tries with a fire arrow, although this miserable mantis does not care. And the leader of the small group comments that they must help them. Although the team's mage is emotional, since Dark used a spell without a combat class invocation, he does not understand anything, but warns that they must help them, although Gold asks them not to interfere, since this is the perfect opportunity for them to show how one fights with a sword and a shield. As he defends himself with his shield, he pulverizes the mantis's claw, mentioning that good defense at the right moment is crucial. He then cuts off one of its legs, recommending that the youths be creative in combat. Dark does not intend to fall behind and begins to use his fire arrows, controlling the movements of the mantis. The young woman is stunned because he is controlling 30 arrows at the same time. Dark feels that it is time to put an end to its suffering. However, the mantis runs for its life. Dark then blocks the path with a wall of fire, and the young woman is impressed by his power. Although the desperate mantis begins to fly, but Nemo with a single leap finishes it. Gold complains, and she asks why he is complaining. He reveals that it is because she destroyed the creature completely, and now they cannot sell anything. Nemo panics and asks Dark, or Light, for forgiveness. While the youths cannot believe that they managed to defeat a mantis, a short time later they at least obtain the beast's core, which allows them to rise in rank. But before leaving, the woman uses her magic so that the youths clean up the mess. In addition, she warns that it is already getting dark and that the night is quite dangerous. They invite him to their camp where they can offer food. However, Light refuses since he does not want to abuse their hospitality, although they insist, commenting that they know a certain young woman who would be delighted by his power. At night, while they dine, she is fascinated by his magic. Light although comments that there is nothing to envy because she is also a very good mage. She praises his abilities since he can use combat magic without needing to chant. Her companion asks if that is very complicated, and she explains that there are 3 types of mage: combat types with simple spells such as fire arrow and ice blade, tactical class types which are for more powerful spells such as ice wall, and the strategist class. The strategist class handles spells that affect the entire world, for example tsunamis, meteorites, or earthquakes. This is the most overpowered class, although for that several forces must unite. But magical races such as dragonoids, elves and dark elves can manipulate this magic much more easily. For humans this is impossible, although Light can do it without even pronouncing the spell. And as expected, he will probably become a legend. His companions ask her to calm down and comment to Dark that although they do not know much about magic, they know that he is a good person. They say that they are very grateful to him. He then recalls his sister and tells her that she must not forget her recommendation for the beginner magic school. because he is sure that one day she will also cast tactical class spells. Light asks if by any chance they are referring to Nai, where the agreements between the races were signed. The youths reply that yes, and they say that unfortunately his sister could not enroll before, because their parents passed away due to an epidemic, and to survive both he and his sister formed this guild. They call their childhood friends, named Jinra and Werf. His goal as the older brother is to send his sister to the magic school. Although his companions correct him and say that this is a goal for all of them, he observes and recalls his younger sister. He then says that he is sure they will achieve their goal, because Mila has quite a talent. She runs and thanks him, and one of the youths, always indiscreet, asks why they became adventurers. He informs that their parents passed away in a fire, while Nemo and Gold say that they are seeking a position that alleviates their master's burn, since they owe much to his parents, and thus they are traveling by his side. The group becomes a little uncomfortable, since the guy simply asked a very inappropriate question. Then they ask Nemo if by any chance she is Gold's partner. She makes it very clear that she would never get involved with that creature, and he himself comments that he prefers more mature women. And meanwhile the wretched Kido becomes annoyed, because his great sword does not like hunting second-class monsters, although his companion asks him to calm down, since atmospheres are necessary to break level limits between races. Now it is time to move on to the next hunt. The humans. Kido becomes excited, since he was eager for this. He is desperate to hunt Light. A few days later at the guild, the receptionist is amazed with Light's group, or Dark's group. Well, I will call him Light anyway. Hey, always bring wonderful things. And Nemo comments that she had already said that they were at S rank. Light asks the receptionist to deliver the tally, and the very kind receptionist asks them to go have lunch, because they prepared a gourmet lunch for them. And meanwhile she will take care of doing the count. A short time later, while they were walking through the streets, the youths encounter a group of adventurers. They ask if by any chance they are from the Black Jester clan. They ask about that name, and they inform that everyone calls them that. Nemo immediately goes on guard, and the two ask them to calm down, introducing themselves as Sullivan and Gilbeth. They ask if it is really true that they defeated. Praise be to God, although Gilbeth comments that this cannot be true. However, Nemo threatens with her dagger, questioning if by any chance they are implying that they are lying. Gold asks what they want, and Sullivan informs that they only wanted to encourage them, so that they can show the entire world that humans are worth it, or even more than the other races. After that it is time to enter the dungeon, so they bid them farewell. Upon doing so, Light notices how the races mock the humans, mentioning that they are delusional, although the young men simply ignore them and continue on their way. They then head to level 5, but on the way they meet the small group from before. They stop to greet them, and at that moment the young man comments to Light that his little sister has something for him. Milia hands him a small shell, commenting that this contains a burn remedy that she inherited from her late grandmother. Although it does not erase scars, she hopes it can relieve him. He thanks her and accepts it gladly, and as thanks he offers a bracelet. The little girl accepts it with pleasure, and soon after that they continue on their way. Nemo asks Light if he will not regret giving his SS rank bracelet to a girl. Light replies that he thought it was perfect for her, while Gold comments to Nemo that gifting a lady with a bracelet grants a miraculous wish, and is quite courteous and elegant. Later they finally reach the 5th level, where Light asks the youths to take care of hunting the Yetis. He then uses his teleport to return to his kingdom, and upon finding himself in his office, Milia hands him his coffee. While she asks how his revenge project is going, he informs her that everything is going perfectly well and will soon be ready. He thanks her for her effort and asks that the others proceed with their tasks in the same way they have been doing. Although when Nizona asks what she should do, he thinks that she is not suited for complicated tasks, and therefore asks her to simply protect that place while he is absent. She, a bit slow, immediately accepts the task, while Light is eager to carry out his revenge and see Sasha's face. Meanwhile, on the 3rd level of the dungeon, Sullivan and Gilbeth are standing guard while their group rests. They are talking about the deeds of the Black Jester, and what a damn name. They are wondering whether everything is true. Gilbeth hesitates, but when Sullivan tells him that the one who saw it was a human woman, Gilbeth mentions that then it could be true, and if this is really true, he could become a legend that will put an end to discrimination against humans. He stands up and tells Gilbeth that he will water the plants, and after some time he returns. He asks Gilbeth to wake up their companions, since now it is their turn to stand guard. But when observing the camp, he comes across all of his companions being dead. Kido scolds him for making him wait too long. While Sullivan wonders what he should do, he knows that he cannot face him, although Kido provokes him to attack. But he uses his intelligence and uses a smoke curtain to escape. But before that he warns that he will pay for all of his crime, although unfortunately he is attacked. When he turns around he is surprised to see that the elf is flying on something strange. His companion then knocks him out and comments that he is very disappointed with the cowardice of humans and then scolds Kido, since they needed the humans alive, and he left only one. He replies that one is more than enough for his experiments, although the young man corrects him, since his experiments never work the first time, so they will need more individuals for testing. He thinks about making good use of the bodies he left at the camp and showing the world what he truly considers garbage. And the next day at the guild, Nemo is found arguing with the receptionist, since she is demanding that her master be promoted. He is someone capable and deserves to have an S classification, but the receptionist informs that although she knows that he is very strong, unfortunately the regulations do not allow it. They already made an exception by promoting him from F to T, and now they must carry out a very heroic action in order to promote him once again. Light asks for some information, and at night they meet at the inn. They say that they will need to carry out a hunt for adventure assassins. A perfect mission to perform this heroic feat. The detail is that they do not have much information about their target, and Gold asks why they do not give the map that helps in the search. Light then replies that these maps appear randomly, and Nemo proposes requesting reinforcements from the abyss and attacking with a human horde. Since these adventure assassins only attack humans, Light feels that it is necessary to stop them quickly, although they sense the presence and they quickly prepare themselves. In the room a dimensional portal opens, and from it unexpectedly emerges Mila, who was transported to that place thanks to the bracelet that Light gave her. When laying her on a bed she tries to say that she needs to ask Darth for help. He takes care of healing her wounds and apologizes to her, since he will have to enter her mind to know what happened. He observes how they were warned in the dungeon that there was an adventurer assassin who was hunting human, and that it would be best to withdraw and warn all humans they saw to do the same. Without wasting time, the youths set off trying to move away as quickly as possible, having walked an entire day trying to leave the dungeon. On their path, they were intercepted by Kido's group. They were hooded, pretending to be another group of adventurers. See how cursed they are. The youths, visibly worried, warned them that in the dungeon a series of murders against adventurers was taking place. It would be best for them to withdraw, and Kido understands why. They thank the youngsters for the warning. However, the bastard already comments that they should have been more discreet, because they would never have imagined that the news would spread so quickly. The guild proved to be more efficient than they thought. Helio does not understand anything they are talking about and asks what they are saying. Janak replies that humans are complete idiots, and Kido reveals himself as the adventure assassin. They panic and ask Mila to move away from that place while they take care of stopping them. But Kido does not intend to allow that and attacks Helio, cutting his abdomen, taking his life right there. The other two rush to attack, but end up badly injured. Mila in panic is unable to move, although at that moment the boy rises again and orders her to flee from that place. The other also gets up and attacks again. However, Kido puts an end to their lives, while Janak scolds him because he had said he needed them alive, but he replies that he will crush all creatures that resist. Besides, he should not worry since there is still one left. Jonok says that although the situation is delicate, she will turn out to be a good test, but he needs more specimens, and Kido tells her to stop crying and approaches Mila, warning her that before leaving her incapacitated he will have some fun with her. He is a damn bastard. Janak does not care at all, and therefore it is better for him to hurry, but he reminds him that he must not kill her. Mila in panic asks him not to approach, although Kido replies that she should feel honored to use her body to please him. This guy is simply trash, and I cannot wait for our dear Light to kill him. She is in panic, and although suddenly Elio gets up and asks his sister to flee from that terrible place, the guy is simply too fierce. Janak upon seeing him warns Kido that he must not kill him, since that young boy has shown himself to be quite resilient and will be useful for their experiments. Poor thing. Mila in turn looks at Elio, and understanding that there is no salvation she decides to flee. While he asks her to live for them, Janak orders him to pursue her, and when he tries to do so Elio stands in his way, while recalling Gold's teachings, a shield to defend and a sword to attack. And the most important thing is to be creative in combat. Kido upon seeing him thinks that the boy has gone mad, although Elio surprises him by throwing his sword at him and then attacking with his shield. He ends up catching Kido off guard, who is astonished to see that that person touched him and becomes very irritated, seeing how Elio laughs in his face. But then he uses the sword to pierce Elio's body once more and approaches to make him suffer more. but Janek intervenes and orders him to follow the girl. She then is running desperately in search of someone to help her. But then her path is blocked by Kido, who warns her that he will teach her how she should behave before the future hero of legends. He reveals his sacred sword Grandius and allows it to create some cones of light. Thus it is better that she resign herself, because a simple creature like her will not be able to escape him. But Mila does not intend to give up, since as her brother and her friends gave their lives for her, she must also fight. She invokes her magic to attack with ice spikes, using them as a distraction to be able to escape. Although Kido stops her and orders her to accept her destiny and surrender herself to the hero of the future, Mila replies that she would never do that, because a hero is brave, strong, and kind, just like Light is, while he only likes to mock and mistreat the weak. This makes Kido remember how the other elves mocked him, because he was only strong and took great advantage of the weak, being a simple disgrace. In the end he was expelled from the Order of the White Knights, and Mila shouts at him that he is just a loser. He, enraged, orders her to shut up and says that he will send her straight to death right there. But Mila says that she cannot die in that place, because she still needs to warn the rest of the adventurers. And at that moment the bracelet teleported her next to Light. The boy is boiling with rage and already orders his friends to move out. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, Kido meets Janek. In search of the girl, Janek is furious and asks how the hell a former white knight let the girl escape. He replies that she simply disappeared out of nowhere, and he asks whether by chance he knew if that girl had some teleportation artifact. Janek replies that humans do not possess that kind of artifact, but if that were the case, then they would be in serious trouble, since if the guild finds out, they will report everything to the Elven Kingdom. And if they also find out that he stole Grandios, the Order of Knights will arrive very quickly along with the captain of the order, who is above level 3000, while the others are at level 2000. And to make matters worse, they all carry weapons of the same level as Grandios. Kido immediately panics, although Janek tries to calm him down, since if his investigation is successful, he will be able to break his limits. Thus the Order of the White Knights will not represent a threat. But then at that moment our tough guy appears and warns that it is too late for them to run away. Upon seeing what happened, he laments their deaths, while Gold warns him that Helio is still alive, thanks to someone who provided him with first aid. Light then heals his wounds, while asking the elves why the hell they did that, when they did nothing. Despite the discrimination observed in the world, those young people were pure and brave. They only wished for Mila to fulfill her dream. So perhaps under other circumstances, maybe they could have been friends. That is why he does not intend to forgive them. Janek asks them to calm down, since he was the one who took care of providing first aid. And furthermore, they have no proof that they were responsible for this attack. But Light reveals that the girl he chased is under his protection, although he warns them that they do not need to worry, because he will not inform the guild. Kido begins to laugh emotionally, since once he finishes them off his problems will be solved. He will become the legendary hero. Light, smiling, replies that they are just trash and he does not intend to hand them over to the guild, because they are his prey and he will make them suffer so much that they will beg him to kill them. He orders Gold and Nemo not to interfere in the fight. While advancing toward those two, Kido, irritated, orders him not to look at him that way and declares that he will cause great suffering, and then tear him to pieces. He attacks with all his strength. However, Light blocks each of his attacks easily. Janek watches in shock, unable to believe how a simple human boy can block all of that. Light comments that he fights like a brainless beast and is already bored with the weakness of his opponent. With a single blow, he leaves him breathless. While he writhes on the ground, Light asks him to try a little harder, otherwise he will kill him unintentionally. Kido gets up because he cannot allow a simple human, his zombies. He doubles the power of the Grandios, creating several sword clones, and attacks Light with different elemental attacks. Although not even that is able to rival his power. Light dodges with ease while thinking that although the attacks are powerful, they are nothing special. Kido then attacks him from behind, but Light blocks it. Janek cannot believe how a human youth is facing an elf wielding a phantom-class sword. But Kido in turn only complains, since the boy does not appear to be a mage. He seems more like a warrior, although Light replies that in fact he is a mage. Gold mentions that that elf thinks he knows everything, but in truth he knows nothing. And at that moment Light summons his icy sword. He leaves Kido perplexed upon seeing that he invoked his enchantment and attacks again with the powers of Grandios. But Light repels all of his attacks with the icy swords. Janek in turn cannot believe how he is blocking everything with absurd precision, far surpassing any elite elven mage. Kido does not give up and continues attacking, but Light uses his icy swords to cover his entire body, as if it were a protective barrier. Kido cannot understand what is happening because none of this makes sense. He is an elf who will become a legendary hero and also possesses an elven national treasure, and this belonged to a master who was sent by the heavens. Upon hearing the word master, Light becomes interested and asks whether by any chance he knows a master. Kido laughs and mentions that he has master blood running through his veins, which makes him a sub-master. Light becomes curious and Kido starts to boast, saying that he is a superior being. Although Light is only interested in the title of sub-master, he warns Nemo and Gold that the plans have changed. He will take him to the abyss and extract everything from his brain, but the other elf Janak responds that he is a scientist who does not like to fight. But if there is no alternative, he will use his trump card, revealing his chimeras. They are creatures half human, half monster, and he declares that he will reach the peak of his investigation thanks to this. But he says that he needs many humans to stabilize them, so then he will have to take them as test subjects. Once he fulfills his destiny, he will break the limiter of the races, and he feels excited just thinking about it. Although this greatly irritates Light, who just by hearing it asks him to shut up. Meanwhile, he orders Gold and Nemo to free those wretches from their suffering. Here, upon seeing their faces, he recognizes that they were the adventurers from before. He warns them that they cannot kill that individual because he plans to investigate him. And without wasting time, they send the chimeras and rush forward. But Janak is very calm and recommends that they should not trust it, because the chimeras have already been taken out. Then they stand up once again and advance against them. He warns that they will never be able to defeat his chimeras. While in turn Kido attacks Light, he orders him to pay attention, and Nemo and Gold, upon understanding that those poor men have already suffered enough, decide to annihilate them once and for all, granting them a dignified death. He is still very confident, warning that his creatures are invincible, but then he becomes shocked, wondering why the hell they are not getting back up. As he approaches to investigate, the fierce Nemo already kicks that miserable man in the groin, leaving him out of combat. It is then that we see Light asking Kido what he intends to do with that power he boasts about. He recalls how Helio mocked him, and furious at seeing that no human respects him, he releases all of the power of Grandius to pulverize everyone. Light merely observes, and when Kido attacks, he simply dodges. He understands that that magical blade is imbued with several different elements. He notices that it increases its speed along with its size and stretches like a whip. Light admits that Kido seems very good. However, he is nothing more than mere insanity. He indignantly asks how he dares to say such a thing, since apparently according to him Light is just running away from his attacks, since just a single strike from his sword would be enough to kill him. Light then tells him to deliver his attack point blank, and Kido indignantly does so without hesitation, attacking. However, he becomes perplexed when he sees how his sword is incapable of hitting Light. Light simply mocks him, asking if that is really all he can do. He then delivers a sword strike and tells Kido that he had a second chance and asks him to attack once more. He will allow it, but Kido is already very afraid, but even so he attacks in total desperation. But Light with a single blow destroys the magic of his sword and then knocks him away with a strike. He approaches and warns him that he should not worry, since he does not intend to kill him yet, because he has many questions to ask him. He will kill him later, when he is begging for his suffering to end. But then it does not even take much, because Kido already begins to kneel and ask for forgiveness. He says that he was destined to be the commander of the White Knights. He says that he will tell everything he knows to Lord Light and will also hand over his great sword. Light is very disappointed and asks whether he does not intend to resist, since earlier he was boasting about being a legendary hero. True heroes stand up even in critical situations, just like Helio and the other two boys. They stood up to protect Mila even when they had no chance. Then Light says that he will give him a second chance and promises that if he manages to wound him, at least a little, he will let him go. Since he is supposed to be the legendary hero, he has to fight until his last breath. But this guy here is a coward, so he runs away, writhing in pain, while Light warns him that Mila was right. He is no hero at all. He is simply a coward. And then Light apologizes to Angina and Ward, telling them that he will bury them in the abyss, since he does not wish to leave them there in that place with so many monsters. Kido and Janak question what will happen to them, but Nemo beats them up for daring to address his lord. While he is very irritated, lamenting not having killed them on that earlier occasion when they met, quickly they teleport to the abyss, where the two elves question where the hell they are. Light reveals that they are at the bottom of the abyss, and they are deeply shocked, wondering what they are doing there. Nemo reveals that that is where they live, and they cannot believe that they live in the worst dungeon in the world. At that moment the other girls gather with them, welcoming them and asking what those creatures are. Light responds that they are criminals who sacrificed many humans, and he brought them there so that they may know their place. The girls observe them with severe intent, and each one makes them understand that they will suffer a lasting torment. Light warns them that they will be killed as soon as the questioning is over, so they must wait. Then he orders Helio's wounds to be treated, while he goes with Anemo to bury Diane and Ward. However, at that moment Janak begs for forgiveness, saying that he is nothing more than a victim. But Kido also begs to be forgiven, claiming that he was manipulated by Janak. These two elves here are nothing but scum and really deserve to die. So Light looks at them with contempt, questioning what happened to that supremacist attitude they had. Now they are begging like insects. But Light has no intention whatsoever of forgiving them, so he leaves the room while Janak and Kido beg for their lives. Now in another scene we see Mila waking up asking where she is. Light answers that they are at his inn, and that he went to the dungeon for the adventurer assassin mission. Mila asks about the others and Light looks at Helio, informing her that he will get better. But the other two were not so lucky, and all he can do is hand over the arrows made from their hair. Upon taking them, Mila cries, thanking him for everything he did. Light steps away thinking that on his journey of vengeance, sometimes it is necessary to hear voices you did not want to hear. The next day at the guild, the receptionist is surprised, since they were able to provide all the information about the adventurer assassins. Light asks if she is sure that she can promote him, since the mission was to capture the assassin. Although she replies that it is more than enough that an elf and a dark elf were responsible. Moreover, he also saved 2 adventurers, so it is natural that he rises in rank. Light thanks her. Then at night Mila and Helio reveal that they will leave the city the next day. They thank Light for everything he did for them, and the boys wish him good luck. And Light asks what they are going to do now. Helio replies that they will leave the guild to return to their home. Although Light asks if there is no way for him to create another clan, Mila confesses that the truth is very frightening after everything that happened. And besides, she only became an adventurer to explore the dungeons with her friends. And now without the other 2 in her group, it will not be the same. They at least hope to be able to take them back home. Light understands and asks Mila what will happen to the magic school. She replies that she will study on her own, and that when they meet again she will certainly become a great sorceress. A little apprehensive, she asks whether they will really meet again. Light promises himself that they will, and she becomes emotional and asks him to keep his promise. After that they continue on their way, while Gold tells Light that those youngsters are very brave and will surely find their path very soon. Light is sure of that and thinks that someday he will be able to take off his mask, and when that moment comes he will take the boys to Jinai of Worst's grave. After that he says goodbye because he is going to return to the abyss, and as soon as he arrives the girls receive him in his office. They hand him a report with everything they investigated, and each one used very questionable methods to obtain that information. According to what they revealed, everything matches. The information about the submaster that Kido mentioned refers to a lineage of a master which has great ease in leveling up. This allows masters to easily wipe out everyone, and Light wonders why they refer to the end of the world and not just a country, questioning what kind of individual could be that important. But if you have been following everything up to this point, you know very well that our hero has the power to destroy the entire world. So I do not know why the surprise. He then asks the girls for their opinion, although they respond that this is based only on the memories of Kido and the leader of the White Knights, making it difficult to know exactly what they are referring to, since their memories are somewhat fragmented. However, now the lead is that they should follow the captain of the White Knights. Light asks them where the prisoners are, and when they show him, man, those guys are not in good condition at all. Light understands that they have no more use, so he uses a banquet of the dead card to get rid of them, causing agony and suffering to them even in death. After that, Light asks her how things are going, and she informs him that everything is already prepared, and that they are just waiting for the signal to begin the revenge project against the elf Sasha. They must get closer to the White Knights Order, who are the masters, and with that they will learn more about this matter. Coincidentally, the vice captain of the Knights is engaged to the traitor elf Sasha, so they will serve as bait. Light already congratulates them for their excellent work and orders the project to begin. Meanwhile, on the other side in the Elven Kingdom, Sasha is telling her fiancé Mikhail how much fun she had when she was terrorizing that human world of Light. He replies that at times it is their role to raise entire settlements full of humans and fully enjoy their crying. He tells Sasha that she is the only woman who shares the same feelings as him. Both are individuals with complex inclinations who enjoy causing suffering to human beings, and Light in turn mentions that soon they will meet. He can no longer wait to see her face filled with agony and begging for mercy, just as he did with Garu. Sometime later, Sasha is in a carriage discussing small things such as the fact that her husband is excessively handsome, and saying that he is a peerless knight. However, suddenly her path is interrupted by a malnourished slave who no longer has the strength to lift a box. Poor thing. Sasha, upon seeing him, laments that such a useless fool cannot even lift a box. Although when she looks out the window, she is surprised to see Light's figure, and without hesitation she runs after him, remembering the past, thinking that it must be a trick of her mind since that boy could not still be alive. At the end of her pursuit, she reaches a dead end, questioning where the hell he went, although afterwards she thinks that everything must have been her imagination. When she turns to return to the carriage, she notices a wall which is signed by Light, warning her that she must return to the Great Tower. Sasha screams in despair while the maid approaches and asks what happened, but this wretch is overwhelmed by her thoughts. Feeling that she will lose the title of nobility she obtained after eliminating Light, she thinks she will lose everything, including her mansion, reward, and even her engagement to Mikhail. Meanwhile, Light is farming aura and observing, satisfied, congratulating Ellie for having acted magnificently. She then tells Light that she will take care of making her suffer greatly, so that the memories remain in her soul, bones, and flesh. Meanwhile, on the other side, in the Order of the White Knights, 2 of the sick members are torturing a human, while another is there taking advantage of a slave and asks his captain if this is true. If that former knight called Keto really stole Grandius and ended up aligning himself with the Dark Elf and massacred all the humans he saw along the way. He laments that if so, a high commander will send them to clean up the mess. One of his companions, named Mulsey, somewhat irritated, tells him that his duty as a White Knight is to intervene in the disaster that former knight caused. But Sharpheart asks him not to be so serious, since he prefers to stay there fondling the slave's melon. Then, annoyed by the noises, he asks the 2 youngsters to finish off that slave already. Although the 2 refuse, because they bought her with their own pay and can do whatever they want. But then Musty says that they are White Knights and humans are fragile, and the fairest thing would be for them to simply bless her with their immaculate swords, granting her a beautiful death instead of a sad and miserable life. These 4 then begin to argue ideologies until the chief of the White Knights orders everyone to be silent. His aura is so great that even the poor bird that was passing by there loses its life. Everyone feels great terror, while the chief orders Nia and Kaya to stop mistreating the human, because this is harming her ability to kill. And he also warns Musty that being so rigid can sometimes be harmful. Finally, he addresses Sharpheart, and without hesitation he takes the human's life, causing Nia and Kaya to panic. Then he sends him to the room, saying he will deal with her later. The captain tells Nia and Kaya to get rid of the body and asks Musty to follow him, since now it is time to depart. The captain then advises Sharpheart to avoid getting too close to human women so as not to stain his royal blood, because originally elves have a lot of master blood in their veins. The Order of the Knights is formed only by their masters, and this continuous lineage. Sharpheart replies that they no longer evolve, except for Musty, and the captain says that they have not seen another master for several millennia. The ideal is not to stain the lineage they possess, and he replies that he does not intend to create bastards. He is just having fun since he loves to see human women happy, just because the elf chose them, given that they make great efforts to harm each other so that he does not leave them helpless. And very soon his servant will have to depart, and at that moment the elf walks away, because soon they will receive orders to resolve the disaster caused by Keto. Because whether they want it or not, this individual was a knight, and they cannot allow anyone to tarnish the image of the majestic elf queen. Shortly afterward at night, Sasha hears a loud crash, and when she looks out the window she observes a great tower. She remembers the note in which Light requested a meeting at the great tower, while Ellie in turn comments that the stage is already prepared. On the other side, we observe how the slave trafficker is taking the human children, but along the way a hellhound appears. He flees to save his life, and now in a tavern he begins to spread the news that the monster is blocking the road through the village. Now several shipments do not arrive, and everyone begins to deduce that it is the fault of that enormous tower. Although the king is not investigating and men are still lacking, the rewards for obtaining information are enormous, so Light is pleased because his plan is working perfectly. Although in the meantime a group of elves takes an interest in Nemo, they approach and invite her to join their group. They are quite surprised because despite her being human she is very beautiful, so they want to go with her to the forest. But they do not ask what they want to do. But Nemo has eyes only for her master, and tells them to go graze grass. Light then warns that Nemo is a valuable member of his group and asks if they can leave her alone. Nemo becomes emotional, although the elves indignantly attack Light. But he counterattacks with his lightning, surprising the elves since he conjured magic without needing to perform any kind of chant. This makes them understand that it is the Black Jester Daggers group. They then continue on their way, and Light hopes that the girls will do equally well. Meanwhile, in the forest, a group of elves is gathering. To obtain information, they use a girl as bait to sacrifice her if they need to escape. However, as they progress, the young girl becomes tired, and they begin to scold her. But at that moment, the Hellhound appears and takes one of them. With its tail, it sends the other two to hell, and the girl panics because now she will be next. But then the hound sniffs, and soon afterward it withdraws. But at that moment, a very strange group of individuals becomes quite excited because they found a slave. The girl laments because she had encountered elves, but now encounters a bunch of delinquents. But at that moment, the individuals simply throw a healing potion on her, healing all her wounds. The girl is surprised while one of them informs Yuki that they have already rescued another child. At that moment, Ellie meets with her, asking Yuki if everything is proceeding according to plan. But Yuki simply keeps meowing at every question, making a sort of confirmation signal. However, Ellie is worried because if this plan were to go wrong, everything would fall apart, and she thinks that perhaps it would be better to warn the others, although that would be against Light's will. Yuki, upon seeing this concern, recommends that she remain quiet. Ellie asks whether she does not think it would be best to understand and cooperate with Light in everything they can. However, Yuki replies that they are what Light says they are. They live to fight, calm him, serve him, and please him. They are his sword and shield, and if they have to die for him, they will die. Ellie cannot believe that she reduces herself to merely a pet, although Yuki responds that that is exactly what they are, and if she comes to doubt Light's intentions, she will not hesitate to kill her right there. Ellie very seriously asks if she could defeat her, although she replies that it will be a good opportunity to see what happens when two SS ranking cards face each other. Ellie already knows that now she is being very sarcastic, and the two stare at each other there, eager to kill one another. The tension between them is extreme. But at that moment, Yuki's group informs that the children are already safe, so the atmosphere between the two somewhat calms. As she leaves, Ellie thanks Yuki because she learned a lot from her. In turn, Yuki's group cannot believe that elves use humans as bait. They question whether the other races possess any morality at all. But at that moment, their leader orders them to be silent and save their saliva, since the next day they will need to depart. At nightfall, Sasha wonders what she should do, because level 1500 monsters are invading the forest. She cannot venture alone, and is afraid to inform the White Knights because if they find out that Light is still alive, they will take away all her rewards. She feels that she must reach that tower one way or another, on her own, to kill Light with her own hands. The next day at the royal palace, the Council of Knights comes to the conclusion that they must take the initiative to protect the population. The captain agrees with the Prime Minister, but what they are requesting does not seem very logical, since sending the Order of Knights into combat without precise information is like using a legendary sword to clean a gutter. They cannot send their men without a basic informational foundation. And with that, the rest of the council begins to feel a tension that exists between those two. They comment that only one person can restrain them, and that is Queen Liv. She comments that the captain of the White Knights has no points in his favor, and therefore orders the reward to be increased and forces to be united to obtain information. As he withdraws, the Prime Minister demonstrates his displeasure toward the captain, who meets with the Queen and thanks her for the support since she is in fact his mother. He is being greatly favored. The Queen replies that she would never place her beloved son in a dangerous situation and warns that this Prime Minister is a major problem since he is using the sudden emergence of the tower as a pretext to meddle in court affairs. She merely mocks it. However, Haji recommends that she not lower her guard with that man, because it is certain that he will not hesitate to carry out a coup d'etat. The Queen replies that this does not concern her as long as he is with her. But what causes her unease is the strange appearance of that bizarre tower. Haji asks whether she happens to be referring to the return of the demon, and she becomes very serious, responding that if that is the case, the alliance of the 8 nations should take charge. But in response, the savior could only be a human. She laments, wishing she could redo everything. But if she were to do that, it would be the elves who would perish at the hands of the demon king. She supposes that inside the tower there must be a master, and that she should try to ally with him or kill him. Haji mentions that he remembers the boy who was suspected of being a master. She replies that according to the report he was not, and they simply killed him. Haji informs that he would have appreciated receiving that mission, although it was not a job for the captain of the knights. but his desire is to eradicate all humans more than any other. Meanwhile, we see an improvised camp being established near the tower, where adventurers are gathering information in exchange for rewards. The previous elf group, upon seeing Dark, becomes enraged. Although as they advance, suddenly Sasha appears, recognizing Light's voice, and orders him to stop. The youths prepare to attack. Although Light forbids them from interfering, Sasha bothers him and orders him to reveal his face, provoking Anemo, causing her to become furious at the arrogance with which she speaks to her master. But he refuses to remove the mask because thanks to it he can conceal a burn scar that he received. But Sasha does not care and orders him to remove the cursed mask. She slaps his face and causes his mask to fall, although soon after she feels repulsion upon seeing how he actually has very ugly burns on his face. She orders him to cover that repulsive face once and for all, and Light replies that it was she who asked to see it. Sasha decides to leave and says that it would have been better for him to have simply died than to live with those scars. Light then thanks Gold and Anemo for restraining themselves, because it must not have been easy. He does not understand how he failed to perceive Sasha's personality 3 years earlier, but she was simply pretending at the time, so there was not much he could have done. He informs that it is time to proceed with what was planned. While they venture into the forest, we observe how the earlier elves follow the youths. After wandering through the forest for a while, Light asks how long they plan to keep following them, warning that if they continue in that manner they will die from running so much. The elves respond that they are the only ones who will die, and Light comments that he warned them. And after a long pursuit, the youths gather beneath a huge tree. Light notes that they have arrived and congratulates them because in truth they did not give up and continued following him. He confesses that he is quite impressed because he thought they would give up. Although the elves respond that they will not be able to escape them, Gold laments, commenting that they used their own abilities to seek their own death. The arrogant elf as always replies that they should feel grateful to lose their lives at the hands of elves. Although then Light calls Mira and asks her to do what must be done. The elves ask whether he has gone mad and started talking to himself. But at that very moment an overwhelmingly voluptuous figure appears behind them, causing profound terror in the unfortunate ones. She responds, asking who they think they are to speak with such rudeness to her master, and for having shown disrespect they will simply die. The elves are paralyzed with terror, while Mira begins to consume them with her abilities. She mentions that begging for her abilities will not work with her, and she finally devours them all completely with her strange tentacle-like arms. Light apologizes to Mira, commenting that he did not wish to give her too much work. She replies that logically he should not worry because although those elves did not have a very good taste, she would eat more than 1,000 of them simply to satisfy him. Gold comments that although Mira is quite reliable, she is very frightening. Anemo supports him and Mira warns them that they must be afraid since they are friends. Then the rest of the level 7777 cards appear, commenting that Mira is right, and they are there to fulfill each and every one of Light's orders. There is a girl who looks like Sherlock Holmes. Her name is Suzu. The hot and cold girl is called Icehead. She looks a lot like Todoroki, and there is also the strong guy named Jack. Light apologizes to them for making them gather in the forest, although Icehead responds that he does not need to worry because with so many adventurers around the area it is best not to fly. Then he addresses Suzu, warning that she must respond politely to her lord. Although she seems quite shy, instead she speaks with her weapon. Light responds that she does not need to worry, and Suzu takes charge of guiding them along the path. While they proceed, Gold is happy to reunite with Jack, and he replies that Light ordered him to appear more so he could not leave him alone since his brother Light asked for his help. Although when he spoke calling him little brother Light, it made all the girls develop a mortal hatred toward the guy. He asks the ladies not to look at him like that, but they say they do not like it when he calls Light by name. He says that everyone are companions, and there is no reason to put Light on a pedestal because he is not asking them to do that, since when they do that he simply becomes more and more alone without anyone he can truly call an equal. At that moment Gold asks Jack to calm down a bit since that is only provoking the girls' anger even more. Although he continues to provoke them, saying that if they wish to burden Light with this matter of worship, he will not allow them to leave him alone on that pedestal since he is his older brother and will always be by his side. At that moment Light intervenes, asking him to stop provoking them. He also warns the ladies not to mind how Jack calls him since they have always treated each other that way, and asks them not to be so harsh with him. The girls calm down a little, but the situation does not become very pleasant. It becomes awkward and tense. So Light tries to start a conversation addressing Icehead by commenting that it had been a long time since he saw her use her gloves. She responds that she is always learning how to be a maid with Miss May. She spent so much time without using them that now when she puts them on she feels a bit strange. Then Mira replies that she could simply take off the entire outfit, and she starts arguing with Mira because one cannot do such a thing in front of Lord Light. Then Light feels more at ease since he managed to ease that atmosphere. Then starts talking with Jack and Suzu stays there completely silent. Light then asks Nemo if Suzu is really a woman since Suzu's card said that she was androgynous. He does not know what that means. If you also do not know, basically androgynous is a person who has both parts, so to speak. Well, later on the group finally arrives at the Great Tower and Helia upon seeing the young man becomes emotional. Without wasting time, the girls run to reunite with him and Helia invites him to enter the tower. Upon opening the door, Light is surprised to see that it is also very large inside. Moreover, there is a huge dragon at the entrance and Helia responds that this is a small pet that she summoned for this operation. The Lord's throne for this reception is located at the top of the tower and the group teleports there. Everyone kneels before the Lord and Helia prepares to review the details of her plan. She asks everyone present to give her their attention, and she reports that Sasha's engagement with the member of royalty is a perfect opportunity that could not be wasted. She then took advantage to add her own twist to the events. With the experiment, she plans to use the most powerful force of the Elven Kingdom, the White Knights, to test the capability they possess. Light thinks it is a good idea. Sasha then continues explaining that in addition, they will be able to capture the White Knights, thus weakening the power of the Elven Kingdom and forcing them to submit. Moreover, they will also interrogate them for information about the Masters, and thus they will gather more and more about the neighboring nations. This tower will serve as a base for all operations on the surface. Moreover, while they are operating from this location, they will use that shadow clone to ascend the adventurer ranking. Everything is going as planned so that Light can witness it while awaiting the main event. He congratulates her for her excellent work, and she emotionally tells him that Sasha is being guided to this place by Yuuki. She is in the forest frightened upon seeing a hellhound, but that is not enough for her to give up. Although her companions warn that they cannot fight that thing, she remembers that she is paying them a massive amount of money, and the detail is that when Helia's pet appears, Sasha understands that there is nothing she can do. So she is forced to retreat, questioning how she could finish off Light without the White Knights. Meanwhile, inside the tower, everyone observes how the plan is proceeding perfectly well, since in this way Sasha is forced to return to the tower with the White Knights, and thus they will face the best of the Elven Kingdom against the best of the Abyss. Now at night in the royal palace, Sasha meets with her queen, and with the entire high command. She reports that the forest is filled with very powerful strange creatures, and for that reason the rest of the weaker monsters are fleeing the primordial forest. The council considers that Light is merely issuing a warning, although Sasha warns that besides that hellhound there is also a dragon living inside the tower. The council cannot believe her words, since if that were so the Elven Kingdom would be doomed. Sasha tries to persuade them, warning that she fears for the kingdom, and for that reason went to investigate on her own. At this moment, the Prime Minister seizes the opportunity to mention that with the evidence presented by Sasha taken together with the report he had received about the adventurers of the Black Buffoon, Captain Hard and the White Knights must now appear to eradicate the danger. He addresses Hard and asks whether this is not sufficient reason to employ the force of the White Knights. He rises quickly, confirming that he will eradicate all evil with his great strength and reveal the mysteries of that tower. Having said this, he departs. Then Sasha meets with the Prime Minister, begging him to allow her to participate in the mission to kill the dragon. The Prime Minister responds that she need not worry since he had already planned this from the beginning. However, if she wishes to participate, there is a condition. He informs her that her determination is worthy of admiration, but there is an impediment. If she wishes to participate, she will need to request a certain object from her father, and now Sasha meets with him and informs him that she has a request to make. The next day, the White Knights gather outside the forest, and Lord Hard informs them that Sasha will be responsible for guiding them to the tower. Although two dwarves begin to murmur that Sasha only managed to present herself thanks to the Prime Minister. Furthermore, she obtained a very powerful artifact, and while he laments, considering that the High Command should not include their disputes on the battlefield. Upon entering the forest, the youths observe from the comfort of the tower, satisfied since their plan is proceeding excellently. Light cannot help trembling his hand from so much excitement, imagining what expression Sasha will make when she arrives at that place and sees him. She is then searching for the marks she placed along the path to guide herself. Upon seeing a mark, she runs, but ends up overshooting it. Although her fiancé helps her, they begin their romance there, causing the others to feel somewhat uncomfortable. Meanwhile, on the other side, the hunting hound begins to move, and the White Knights finally arrive at the tower. They question who built that thing, and at that moment the tower opens. Then several hunting hounds begin to emerge from it, and Sharfat warns his captain that they cannot defeat them all, but he can kill some. Although Hard responds that they must only go after the dragon because they do not know the strength of these monsters. Therefore it is better to avoid all possible fights until defeating it. Moreover, this is the perfect moment for the adventurers they hired to begin making noise. And precisely at that moment on the other end of the forest various noises begin and the hounds and ferns start to march there rapidly. Hard confirms the 5 abyssal beings just as in the report he sent, so it is time to enter the tower. He warned his knights that inside this tower there may exist other types of monster, so they must not lower their guard. And shortly after that he activates his silence magic, greatly surprising Sasha. She is unable to hear even her own heartbeat, understanding that this is the power of the radio magic, the silent one. Without wasting time they enter the tower, while Ellie informs Light that it is time to have some fun. Pasha is the first to enter the tower, followed by the other knights. However, at that moment a teleportation circle is activated that separates everyone, while Light on his side waits for Sasha, taking all the time she needs to reach that place. He will be there waiting for her. She is simply the main star of this spectacle. On the other side we see the siblings Kaya and Nia, who encounter Todoroki and Mira. Mira, without wasting time, already begins to belittle them, commenting that she alone could handle them. But then she adds that one should not trust them because rats tend to bite the cat when they are cornered. And Nia asks who the hell they are. And the girls respond that they could be considered their prey, lamenting that elves are such an inferior race. This makes the siblings angry, and they attack them. The girls dodge while the youths boast, saying that they should not underestimate submasters like them. Then they will take charge of making them suffer, cutting each one of their limbs. The youths then prepare themselves and attack directly. And meanwhile Sharp Harsh laments not having considered the teleports. He asks his opponent to come out of hiding at once, ordering them to reveal which floor they are on. Suzu then comes out of her hiding place, and Sharfat, upon seeing her, becomes captivated, while Suzu feels disgust. Sharfat asks if by any chance she got lost in that place and offers to escort her. Suzu feels very uncomfortable, and he asks her name. Although her rifle lock answers that her name is Suzu, he tells him that she is very shy and does not talk much, and that he himself is nothing but a cheap seducer. Sharp Harsh is surprised to see that the weapon can talk, and Locke comments that he does not need to remember their names since it will no longer be necessary because he will die soon. But Sharfat comments that it is better not to fight and to spend a good time together making love. This guy is simply insane. Locke responds that physiologically he is not her type, and Sharfat asks what type she likes since he is willing to adapt to it. Suzu comments to Locke what her type of man is, and what Suzu says is basically the entire description of Light. Locke comments that Suzu is in love with Light and is wasting her time since there is no possibility of her being with him there, which makes her very angry, slamming him against a pillar. Poor weapon. Sharfat, then watching this, says that if she does not want to come willingly, she will come by force, attacking her with his invisible crossbow. Although Suzu simply avoids the attack and counterattacks with her rifle, greatly surprising Sharfat when he sees that she can see his invisible bolts and counter them. Sharfat becomes excited, letting her know that now she draws much more of his attention. Meanwhile, Mir and Todoroki, also known as Ice Heat, ask the youths to stop jumping all over the place, although they do not think of abandoning their advantage and begin attacking the girls rapidly, who easily dodge their attacks. The girls say that in the end they do have to be careful after all these little mice bite. Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, a hellhound is about to devour an adventurer, but at the last second Light's clone intervenes. With him are Gold and Nemo, who just as they rehearsed go after the hellhound, which supposedly is fleeing. Light, then observing everything, asks Alice if this is also part of her plan, although she responds that that touch was added by them. Meanwhile, the youths continue to constantly attack the girls, but they dodge easily until they attack with a barrage of cutting wind, and then they warn that now they will indeed get serious. Then at one moment one youth attacks her while the other cuts her arm. They feel victorious since they cut her arm, asking which limb they should cut now. But at that moment Mira asks Ice Red what her verdict is. She responds that now that they could evaluate their potential, they are nothing compared to her expectations. They are much weaker than she imagined, and the little dwarves ask what they are talking about since so far they have not managed to land a single blow on them. But Mira responds that they should open their eyes at once. Their swords are clean, they are not injured. Everything they did so far was just acting to test their level of skill, and apparently they were quite disappointed. She simply takes her own arm and regenerates it on the spot, and the youngsters are shocked. Mira asks them not to be astonished yet since she has many more tricks up her sleeve. The brothers are stunned when Mira rips off her own head. She is laughing like a madwoman, revealing that her body is made of many parts of other living beings. Then she introduces herself as Mira, an ultra-rare chimera of level 7777. And what a creative name, Chimera Mira. Very good. And this Red also introduces herself. She is basically a fire and ice fighter at the same level. I am sure the author wanted to name her Todoroki, but I cannot prove anything. The brothers then cannot believe it and shout that that level is a fraud. They then advance with a cutting wind blast, but this time the girls do not dodge. After attacking them directly, they are shocked to realize that in fact they never needed to dodge their attacks, since they do absolutely nothing to them. Like good cowards, they use the hit and run tactic, running and turning the corner to protect themselves. But Ice Red says that the game is over. Mira, already afraid of what is coming, tells her to wait because she needs to protect herself too. Then right after she is protected, Ice Heat prepares herself. On the other side, we see Suzu dodging the elf's attacks. He is very confident and attacks constantly, thinking he has her cornered. However, when he comes out of the smoke screen, he is surprised. Besides being beautiful, she is also very strong. He asks if by any chance the guy she likes is called Light, suggesting that the best thing she can do is forget that loser and go with him, that he will make her happy. Locke replies that now he is dead, it would have been better for him to stay quiet. Suzu then enters a murderous aura, and I definitely would not want to be that guy right now. He is screwed. The youths on the other hand reach a dead end, wondering what they should do. However, at that moment they begin to feel an intense heat, wondering if those women are feeling that heat wave as well. Then both begin to work together, creating an ice barrier to protect themselves. But the barrier does not last a single second and shatters into pieces. They keep invoking another one, but unfortunately for them, Ice Heat is basically cooking them. Her fire is so strong that she is basically turning them into barbecue. Meanwhile, Sharp Heart panics when he sees the rain of bullets that Suzu is accumulating in the air. She quickly begins to move in all directions and Sharp Heart runs for his life. He even tries to block Suzu's attacks with a burst, but it does not work. He is hit by one of the attacks that gives him a disease. In addition, he also receives status effects. With each bullet that hits him, a different status effect is applied, such as confusion, blindness, curse, paralysis, illusion, hypnosis, and so on. Every bad thing the kid is getting. And back to the youths, they miraculously remain alive. But that is thanks to Ellie's magic spreading from the tower. Otherwise, they would have turned into barbecue. Ice Heat becomes furious since she only fought seriously for a moment and the kids almost died already. Although Mira replies that she did not fail completely, the youths then begin to beg for their lives, and Mira responds that that is the last straw. She summons the serpents from her body and warns them that she will not grant the same mercy they never gave to the humans they tortured. She will make them regret their crimes, and Maus will leave them alive to make them suffer eternal torment. And then we close with this scene where they are being suffocated by serpents. And soon after we see that he is agonizing, asking Suzu to forgive him. But she is very enraged and begins to stomp on his head, saying die over and over. But Locke asks her to calm down, since Light would be very sad if she killed the guy. Light only asked her to measure his strength, and if she really kills him he will be sad. Realizing her mistake, she begins to cry. Although Locke asks her to calm down because surely Lord Light will not blame her for it. Then we see Light, who asks Ellie where Sasha is. She asks if by any chance he would like to see her, but he replies that no, and that he prefers to simply wait for her to open the door. He is very anxious waiting for his turn, and Sasha is too, since she wants to make her appearance and use her mysterious weapon against him. On the other side, we see Jack, who is facing Musty. He introduces himself, and right after Musty does not listen. Although Jack does not mind and says they will see who remains standing, but he recommends that he surrender since he hates beating up the weak. Musty then responds that this level 7777 is nothing but a lie. Although Jack suggests that he use analysis to see that he is not lying, but then Musty does not respond at all, and Jack asks if by any chance he does not even master that simple spell. The guy gets annoyed and says that he will simply destroy him. He attacks Jack, warning that he will show no mercy, but Jack repels him easily, provoking him and making Musty attack him frantically. Although Jack does not even bother, Musty cannot believe how he blocks so many attacks with such ease, attacks that not even his Captain Hard could withstand. He then attacks once again. Although Jack counters Smag against a wall, he begins to believe that he really is level 7777. and for that reason he warns that for the well-being of the Elven Kingdom he cannot lose this battle. Jack replies that from his perspective the only way to save weak and ugly humans is to eradicate them. He says that breathing the same air as those despicable humans is repugnant, and that their destiny is death. To him that is compassion, and he is willing to shorten their suffering. Jack replies that he is just an idiot, although Musty states that someone like him could not understand his noble cause. Then he begins to release all the power of his axe, giving up his life energy to obtain more strength. He keeps giving more and more life energy, becoming increasingly stronger. Jack comments that although his ideology is questionable, the truth is that his determination is firm, and therefore he will respond to it. Without hesitation, Musty attacks him with all his strength. Although Jack blocks it with his iron blood, it covers his entire body, and he ends up looking like a statue, and he is practically indestructible here. Desperate Musty begins to attack frantically, but it does nothing. Jack with his strength destroys his axe, and with a single blow knocks him out of combat, saying that his attacks were not bad. He was just unlucky. Right after that he approaches and carries him, surprised to see that he is still alive, and praises Ellie's spell. Jack wonders how the others are doing, and at that moment we see Hard facing Nazuna. She proclaims herself the strongest of all, but Hard simply ignores Nazuna. Irritated, she orders him to pay attention when she speaks, and Hard understands that she is an enemy, and Nazuna mentions that her master asked her to test his strength against this opponent. He assumes that she must be strong, but that her master must be even stronger. Hard, then realizing that Nazuna does not speak lightly, notices that she has great experience despite appearing to be a child. However, no one can rival him, and he asks Nazuna to prepare for combat because he will test her. But Nazuna is very excited, and since Hard does not attack first, she decides to start. But she gets a little carried away, and with a single sword strike she destroys a good part of the tower, leaving Hard gravely injured, and if it were not for Ellie's magic this guy would have been cut in half into little pieces. Nazuna panics thinking that she already killed the guy, and starts poking him to get up, while Ellie scolds her for having destroyed the wall. The damn Nazuna says it was not her, what a joke, and Ellie asks her to stop lying because she can see perfectly what she did. She reminds her that that tower is connected to her magic, and for that reason she reinforced that floor a lot. But even so, Nazuna managed to destroy it, and repairing it consumes a lot of mana. She asks if by any chance she wants to become a burden to Lord Light, and Nazuna apologizes, while Ellie asks her to learn how to control her strength. At that moment she notices Hard murmuring something, and she uses intermediate magic on him. He gets back on his feet. He is surprised and says that now he will no longer hold back. He will go all out. Now that he stood up, Nazuna thinks she can continue measuring her strength, but she must be careful with the walls, and then Hard prepares to fight like a true knight, and without wasting much time he uses his silence magic to cover the entire place with absolute silence. In addition, he also weakens Nazuna's abilities a little, while strengthening himself with the power she lost. He also relies on Hermit, a magical sword created from silence. Its range is very difficult to measure, and its attacks are practically impossible to dodge. Hard prepares to carry out silent and devastating attacks. Although he notices that Nazuna sheathes her sword, he feels that the girl, despite being very young, is quite audacious. He begins to approach slowly, while noticing that Nazuna is a bit tense. He thinks that this stiffness and nervousness are due to lack of experience. Little does he know. Then Nazuna waits for the right moment and moves in to strike him. In the blink of an eye she positions herself beneath him and lands a powerful blow that sends him flying against a wall. Hard did not even have time to think and was completely knocked out. Nazuna gets emotional because now, according to her, she managed to control her strength, but she still destroyed part of the wall. She just did not break it completely. She was basically nervous because she did not want to destroy the wall. My god. And Ellie scolds her again in the same way, since despite her not destroying the entire wall, she broke a part of it, and in any case Ellie will have to repair it. Nazuna tells her to shut up and calls her an old witch, since she is doing everything she can to restrain her strength. Nazuna asks her master to tell the witch to stop mistreating her, while Ellie takes care of repairing the walls, and Light asks her to leave her alone, because at least she managed to capture Hard. Ellie understands and asks Nazuna to take that trash behind her up to the top of the tower. Ellie then apologizes to Light, because she wanted to use this opportunity for Nazuna to learn how to use her strength. He replies that she should not worry and asks how she is, since she must have spent a lot of energy repairing the walls. She answers that she is fine, although Light remembers that when the world was destroyed she was basically trembling all over her legs. At that very moment they feel that Sasha is about to cross the door, and outside the Great Hall, Mikhail tells Sasha that she should not worry, because he will protect her. At that moment, the doors open and Light receives them. Now there is a different atmosphere. The room is completely dark, while Sasha recalls that she had seen it before. While in turn Light greets her and Mikhail asks if by any chance she knows him. She comments that she only crossed his path once, and Sasha orders him to show more respect when addressing the elves, asking how the hell the detestable human knows her name. Light reminds her that she was not always someone so unpleasant toward him. Sasha, confused, replies why she should be kind to a repulsive human. Although Light removes his mask, she, terrified, starts to tremble, asking how the hell his burns are no longer there, and why he also has not changed at all from 3 years ago until now. He reveals that the burns he had shown her before were just an illusion. He basically also stopped his growth so as not to forget his pain. Sasha cannot believe it. While Mikhail asks if by any chance this is the potential master she killed in the past, she tries to answer, but at that moment she is interrupted by Light, who comments that in the past a hidden portal threw him into the depths of the abyss, but he managed to survive thanks to those two people who are there, his friends who lent their power so he could take revenge, and also discover why they wanted him dead, revealing that this tower was built especially to take revenge on Sasha, and that she should feel proud of that. Mikhail starts to laugh, mentioning that Sasha is the goddess of fortune. She does not understand, but Mikhail explains that they will take advantage of this opportunity and tame the dragon and eliminate all the threats of the country. They will keep the secrets and technologies of that tower to ascend at court. Sasha replies that he is right, and then turns to Light, warning that he has only prepared his own grave. However, he stands up very seriously and grabs his staff. Soon after, he orders his servants not to interfere under any circumstances, and they obey. While Light approaches her, he comments that he has a wedding gift to offer, and it will be his icy revenge. However, Sasha starts to laugh, mentioning that she does not know how much stronger he became, but that he is still human, that he is no match for her. Moreover, now she possesses a family treasure, and by using the ocarina, she summons angelic creatures. Very confident, she reveals that it is a treasure of a noble family, of the phantom class, the angelic ocarina, and that he will die under its power. One of the archangels attacks Light, who dodges the attack. He congratulates the monster, because to shake the ground of that place it is necessary to have great strength. He counterattacks, but his companion protects him with a shield. Light tries to break through it, although he only manages to destroy the shield and break his arms. But at that moment another angel uses a sacred healing, regenerating the limbs of his companions. Light smiles, understanding that these armies of angels cover one another, and he considers all of this very entertaining. While Mikhail and Sasha do not understand what is happening, how a human of only level 15 can face celestial beings, and at that moment Light smiles, and reveals that he also gained some experience in this short time. He demonstrates that he is now level 9999, and Sasha is shocked. Although Mikhail tells her not to fall for this trick, since it must be some illusion, something like that, she agrees, and just like with his attack, he must be using some magical object. She manages to calm down a little and orders the angels to finish Light, but he counterattacks, combining several types of magic. The detail is that Sasha uses the ocarina again, summoning more angels that replace the previous angels. Light thinks that this ocarina is quite irritating, and because of that he attacks Sasha to destroy it. But Mikhail blocks his attack, and asks her not to lay her hands on his wife. Light replies that it is a good shield, but suddenly the shield basically repels his attack, sending it back at him. The girls worry about Light, while he asks what the hell that impact was. Mikhail, smiling, reveals that that shield is basically a blessing and a punishment. It is a treasure of a noble family, and the punishment is for those who challenge the heavens, and it also carries the blessing, which considerably increases the statistics of celestial beings. He comments that the fight ended before it even began, while Sasha is there smiling, asking Light if he thinks that an insect like him will manage to get out of there. Ellie and Yuki are quite irritated, but at that moment Light starts to laugh, and he asks them to let him show what the true meaning of the word despair is. Ellie and Yuki already become desperate, asking him not to do that, but Light releases his restraints. He dissolves the first level of the spiritual seal, and activates it using code 999. The chains begin to break, and a dark aura permeates the entire place. He invokes the funerals of Grunir. His staff then transforms into a spear, while we observe that this causes damage to him. But Light is very excited, because now he will show despair. Sasha is already shaking with fear, and Mikhail as well. Mikhail then orders Sasha to send her angels to attack. Meanwhile, Light calmly advances toward the end. The angels attack him but cannot reach him, and Light with his movement disintegrates them all. Mikhail is terrified, and Sasha says that they must end this as quickly as possible, since his weapon is very dangerous. She then, without wasting time, summons an archangel, while Light in turn is pleased that they are giving a good battle. However, the game is over. He pierces her defense with his spear, and since if this battle drags on he will lose his arm, but he does not care at all. He says that he can lose an arm, a hand, 2, 3. He just wants to demonstrate absolute despair to Sasha. The guy is bloodthirsty. Sasha now starts to feel confident again, while her archangel uses a sacred text to attack Light with its holy spear. Mikhail watches in amazement, thinking that the angelic ocarina always surprises him, and very soon that ocarina will become his. Sasha already orders the archangel to finish him, but Light's dark aura destroys its attack. He asks if she really believes that she can defeat him with those weak attacks, and Sasha begins to truly feel what despair is, ordering the archangel to attack him several times, but none of its attacks work. Light is enjoying every single moment of this, and emotionally he asks her to try harder or he will kill them faster than she imagines. Mikhail and Sasha panic, and desperately they ask their angel to destroy him. It accumulates a set of attacks, although Light shows that everything is useless. Then Sasha once again starts to play the ocarina. Although she panics when she sees that no more angels appear, the ocarina simply disintegrates in her hand, while Light comments that it was enough for him to slightly increase his attack power to eradicate her summons. Mikhail asks what the hell that spear is, since nothing in the world can destroy a Phantom-class artifact. But then Light replies that this is a Genesis-class spear. This is the god exterminator, Grunir. Mikhail thinks that all of this is a bad joke, since earlier he was saying that he was level 9999. And now he talks about a special Genesis class that does not even exist. Sasha screams at Light, telling him not to consider himself a god just for destroying everything. And then Mikhail still feels somewhat confident thanks to his blessing and punishment shield, since supposedly any attack against him will be useless. They continue to act arrogantly. Although by this point they should already know that they are finished, it is then that Light decides to silence him once and for all. Mikhail protects himself with all his power while Light smiles and asks him to take responsibility for showing what the superior race of elves can do. The shield succumbs before Light's spear, and Mikhail in panic asks what kind of human he is, and if by any chance he is a master. Light replies that he would also like to know what a master is, since he boasts so much about being their masters, and Mikhail realizes that there is no other option. He warns that they will have to withdraw, but it is not a retreat. It is indeed a strategic withdrawal, since they must warn their country about the monster they are facing. Then he takes a feather from his pocket and tries to use it to cut the heavens, but it does not work. Upon realizing that his last trump card to escape is not working, he desperately tries to activate it repeatedly several times, but Light recommends that he surrender, since inside that tower teleportation is blocked by a spell, so it does not work. Mikhail orders him to shut up since a spell like that does not exist, but Light asks Ellie to be kind and explain. Ellie replies that it is normal for him to think that way since that spell truly did not exist until she created it. They understand that there is no way to escape, but they think that not everything is lost yet, because surely their beloved captain will rescue them, and he has a level of 3000. He will eliminate them in the blink of an eye. However, if they allow them to leave, it would be possible to spare their lives. Light merely smiles and asks his group to enter the room. When the doors open, Sasha and Mikhail are astonished to see that all of their friends are simply in a deplorable state. Light's friends have simply finished off each and every one of them, but then he informs them that they should not worry, and then approaches them and asks what they were talking about earlier regarding the hope of being rescued. Mikhail, seeing that there is no way to escape, simply lowers his head before Light. He comments that he has an offer for him and proposes joining forces to rule the Elven Kingdom. While Sasha watches without understanding anything of what Mikhail is saying, she asks if by any chance he has lost his mind, although he merely ignores her and comments to Light that with his power and talent for politics, it would be very easy to conquer the world. He offers the throne, the kingdom, and anything he wants. But Light simply responds asking if he truly thinks that he wants that. Light then says that he is very mistaken because what he seeks is truth and revenge, and in that case Mikhail asks if he can let him go, since he never thought of killing him. In truth, he has nothing to do with this matter involving Sasha, and Sasha panics because she cannot believe that Mikhail is abandoning her, although he orders her to shut up and calls her ugly, revealing that he was already fed up with those forced engagements, because if it were not for that he would never have been interested in an ignorant peasant like her. Sasha begins to cry desperately, thinking that he truly loved her, saying that he is a miserable man. She truly believed in his love, but it was all a lie. Everyone merely watches this melodrama, although Mikhail asks Light if he would like him to take responsibility for killing Sasha. But Light replies that he would never ally himself with him, and asks Ellie to take care of him. Then she begins to approach, showing that she had an immense desire to conclude her revenge, but she had to restrain herself, since she could not disobey the orders of her esteemed master, so she had to contain her murderous impulses. But now she will make sure that he has a painful death, and Mikhail desperately asks her to spare his life, since he now knows the greatness of Sovereign Light, a benevolent and admirable being. Sasha responds that now he understands the greatness of her master, although she is here so that he can understand it even better. She will do a few little things to him. It is then that he desperately tries to flee, but Sasha uses her thorny vines and captures him. She then uses a spell on him that makes him suffer to the same degree as the insults he directed at Master. She then probes his mind, while Mikhail begs for forgiveness, but Ellie ignores him and continues torturing him, while Sasha is there completely terrified, watching the horrifying torture that her former fiancé is suffering. Light informs her that now she is next, and she understands the situation. She asks Lodge to remember how she hugged him when he was crying in the street. She always defended him when others tried to harm him, but he says that it was all just her trick, a simple performance, because deep down she despised him and only wished for his death. Sasha panics and recalls that Drago also hurt him. It was not only her fault, but even so, according to her, she is not guilty of anything, and she asks if by any chance he does not remember how he loved her. She also offers her body so that he lets her live. At that, Yuki becomes enraged and intervenes, since she is basically insulting her master, trying to offer a false love and denying her sins, so she will take responsibility for delivering her to the carrion, so that they devour her completely. Afterward, she will take responsibility for reviving her repeatedly, to repeat the same cycle. And I think this revenge of hers here is much better than the protagonist's. But then Lodge intervenes and says that she can no longer say a single word, and then addresses Sasha. He reveals that he does not intend to kill her, but that he will make her suffer an eternal martyrdom. She will not die until he discovers the truth and decides what to do with his own powers. Then he says that she will be able to relax and enjoy herself with Goru in the darkness of the deep abyss. He then steps away and Sasha begs him to please forgive her, although at that moment he returns the arrow with which Sasha had struck him in the past, then asks Mira to take care of the rest. Mira promptly makes sure to make her suffer an eternal torment, and the desperate Sasha begs Light to make it stop, because she only wished to be happy. She sought nothing but happiness, and Light responds that one cannot seek happiness while trying to harm others, as he withdraws, leaving Sasha to suffer. But the consequences of wielding the spear begin to affect him, and he falls to the ground. But before losing consciousness, he seals his spear. After some time, the girls gather worried about their master, and Mizuna asks Alice if her great master will be fine. She does not know how to respond, because their great Lord Light used limited expenditure without rest for 3 years, and Grunir was the only elite card that he managed to obtain. Both May and she had been investigating, and the only thing they were able to discover is that this spear is extremely powerful, and that it ended up requiring 4 level 999 souls. However, Lord Light decided to release one of the seals, and the power that surged devoured his body. So now the only thing they can do is wait and trust him. At that moment, Light awakens and recalls the instant he lost consciousness. He tries to apologize, but May asks him not to apologize. She is the one who has to apologize. Worried, she asks him to rest, saying that when she saw his tears at their first meeting, she thought she understood how much he desired revenge, but she asks him to be a little more sensible, since he is not alone. Everyone there is with him. Meanwhile, in the Elven Kingdom, the High Command is informed that it has received no news from the White Knights. Based on everything that happened, they assume that they must be dead, although the Queen orders the messenger to be silent, since her beloved son is the strongest elf in the world. The messenger replies that 3 days have already passed since his disappearance. This had never happened before. The Queen is already quite irritated and orders him to be silent, although the meeting is interrupted by another messenger who informs that a horde of dragons has invaded their lands. Then we see that Ellie is leading those dragons, and they fly over the city. While Ellie communicates directly through minds, she introduces herself as the sorceress of the tower and states that she received several unwelcome visitors. She expects the responsible person to present themselves, and if they do not comply, she will destroy everything. Then she makes a small demonstration by attacking the surroundings of the city. So now, with everyone terrified, they decide to speak with her. She gives them 3 minutes to come, and at 2 minutes and 50 the Queen appears. She introduces herself as the sovereign of the Elven Kingdom and informs Ellie that she does not appreciate her crude threats. She therefore orders her to recall those horrible creatures. Ellie responds that she is quite rude and that her unpleasant knights invaded her tower without invitation. The Queen asks what she did with her knights, but Ellie replies that she is not obligated to answer. However, she has a question for her. For what reason did she send those criminals to her tower? She asks if perhaps she did it because she wished to steal her riches and her research. The indignant queen asks if she is calling her a thief. Ellie informs her that she does not trust her and is certain that she is not mistaken. She then prefers to verify directly in her mind and approaches the queen. In panic, the queen orders her to step back and a minister orders the knights to protect the queen. But Ellie simply summons those Mortal Kombat-like scenarios with several bizarre trees, and then everyone ends up dying. Those trees basically feed on the flesh of their victims and expand without limit as long as there are enemies. The queen in panic runs away, although Ellie easily captures her and says that she has many questions to ask. After capturing her, she uses her powers to read her mind, making the queen suffer greatly in the process. Upon reading her mind, she understands that the queen was not lying. However, she can feel deep within her soul a violent discrimination against humans. That is the reason why from that moment on she orders her to immediately free the humans enslaved in her kingdom. In the same way, she must also abolish slavery, making her know that if she opposes her orders she will make her die. It is then that the queen simply abolishes slavery in the Elven Kingdom, and then May takes responsibility for explaining the entire situation to Light. He becomes emotional upon discovering that now many humans are fleeing to other countries and to his kingdom. Light understands that now it is time to begin, although May suggests that he should continue resting, but he responds that he only wants to reassure the others. So he meets with the group, who become emotional upon seeing him. Later at the top of the tower, Light is observing the humans. While they are protected by their beasts and also by their companions, Ellie informs that adding the people who fled from other countries, there are around 5,000 in that area. Those people have been freed and are preparing the surroundings so that soon they can live in a self-sufficient way. He comments that he realized that if that world were corrupted he would burn everything. But in the end he changed his mind, and instead he wants to protect it. The true culprit for this entire situation is discrimination. And once he completes his revenge, he will dedicate himself to building a world where everyone can be happy. Although he feels that this is almost impossible, he notices that the girls are kneeling before him, and let him know that his will is their will as well. They will help him and protect him and lead him to the top. And at that moment everyone gathers together. While Light feels that he is progressing along the right path, whenever his companions are by his side, nothing will be able to stop them. And thus this anime ends. I hope that you enjoyed it. It is a very interesting revenge anime. It has some very funny parts in the middle, and the protagonist is very good. He simply goes there and does what needs to be done. He does not waste time with nonsense. Well, I hope that you enjoyed it, and leave a comment on the video. If you could choose one of the girls that are here, which one would you choose? I would go with Mira. And you, that is it. Stay with God. Thanks, see you, and until the next video.